Hello everyone, I'm Brian. Welcome back. Let's go to continue.
Famous example, dying of throat cancer. And his disciple, Hari, Swami Turiyananda, young boy, comes at the end and says, how are you today, sir? And Sri Ramakrishna says, oh, it hurts, I cannot eat. And this young man, for some reason, says to him, but sir, I see that you're in great delight. Apni anande achen. The cruel thing to say to a cancer patient. Sri Ramakrishna bursts out laughing and says, oh, the rascal has found me out. He admits that this boy is right. I am in great bliss. Now, was he acting that he is in pain and he cannot eat? Is it his play acting? No, it's true. Just like any cancer patient suffers, he suffered. But like most cancer patients do not have this insight, which in the midst of suffering gives him this oasis of peace. That I am in my real nature as awareness, which is not an object, which illumines all objects, including this painful object of a cancer and a tumor and a dying body. I am all right. I was before this appearance of this cancerous tumor, and I'll be there after this cancerous tumor disappears and the body disappears. I am in the middle of that also. In the middle of this appearance also, I'm fine. And this is not just Sri Ramakrishna. All of us, we have that diamond right now, which takes us beyond suffering, which is itself beyond suffering, which makes possible, however, the experience of suffering. If that awareness were not there, would you experience suffering? No. You would not experience anything. So experience of pleasure, experience of pain, experience of bondage, experience of liberation, all of them, samsara and liberation, moksha, appear and disappear in that same field of awareness. And that awareness you are. You say, oh, this is great. Advaita Vedanta, wonderful. What I just quoted now is literally a line from Mahayana Buddhism. Samsara and nirvana both are phenomena appearing in that limitless and clear light of the void. You see how it seems to come together. One more step is necessary. So right now it seems I have isolated myself as pure awareness. I investigated the subject, the seer, the experiencer, in Sanskrit, drashta, and I've separated myself from the drisya, this world. I am the subject, pure awareness, the world appears to me, and I am just this awareness, bare awareness. But then one might ask, first, what is this world then? What is its relationship to you, the awareness? And how is this non-duality? This seems like complete duality. Awareness and a world of objects. Right? That's what we have achieved so far. No non-duality so far. This is Sankhya philosophy, a Sankhya dualism. The world of objects and this awareness. Now, Advaita Vedanta comes and says, Tattvam Asi, the reality which appears as this world of objects and the reality, this awareness which you are, they are one and the same reality. That which appears as this universe is called Brahman. That which appears as you, this awareness, is called Atman. And Advaita Vedanta says, Atman is Brahman. That's the conclusion. You are that. Atman is Brahman. In that book, Jim Holt's book, Why Does the World Exist? This is not an inquiry into oneself. It's an inquiry into this universe. And there he goes around asking, philosophers, nuclear physicists, cosmologists like Roger Penrose, mathematicians, computer scientists, people of religion, theologians, why does this world exist? And towards the end of that book, he asks a famous American philosopher who passed recently, Robert Nozick. And he asked, same question. And after some discussion, the philosopher seems to sort of metaphorically throw up his hands and says, who knows, maybe the Hindus are right, Atman is Brahman. So Advaita Vedanta comes in and says, no, that material reality is not apart from you, because Atman is Brahman, what you found as that bare awareness, yourself as this limitless awareness, and what it is experiencing as this world of objects, whose reality is Brahman, they are not two. Atman is Brahman. Sam Altman, ChatGPT, he also said that. Atman. Somebody asked him that, tell us something that you believe which most people don't know or don't believe. And he said, Atman is Brahman. How does that solve our problem, establish non-duality? Here is it. As one great master said in Hindi, he said, ये तो ठीक है कि दृष्टा दृश्य से अलग है, लेकिन कभी सोचा है दृश्य क्या दृष्टा से अलग है? What does it mean? It is true. Consciousness is distinct and apart from all the objects. You are awareness, distinct and apart from all this world of objects, changing objects, including body and mind. But have you ever thought, consider this thought, is this world of objects, sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, physical body, mind, is this world of objects distinct from you? You are distinct from all of this, but is it distinct from you? What does it mean? See, when usually two things are distinct, one thing is distinct from the other, the second one must be distinct from the first. So, for example, this microphone is distinct from this cloth. So, cloth is also distinct from the microphone. They are two separate things. How do you know? One good way of is, can you experience one in the absence of the other? Can you experience the microphone in absence of the cloth? Yes. Can you experience the cloth in absence of the microphone? Yes. So, they are separate things. But if there is something that you cannot experience in the absence of the other, you begin to think they may not be two distinct things. They seem different, but if one cannot be experienced without the other, then there must be some connection somewhere. So what? Now think about it. Objects appear to you in consciousness. You experience objects in consciousness. Consciousness can exist by itself, can appear, but can continue in the absence of objects like deep sleep, like coma, like samadhi. Consciousness can continue. But can objects be ever experienced without consciousness? What is the principle? Two things are separate if they can be experienced separately. Now I'm asking, can objects be experienced without consciousness? It's a trick question. The moment you say experienced, you're already building consciousness into that question. What is experience? Consciousness plus object. That's what we decided earlier. Objects can never be experienced in the absence of consciousness. In fact, the absence of consciousness, according to Advaita Vedanta, is an impossibility. Objects always appear to consciousness in consciousness. And then Advaita Vedanta makes this remarkable claim: if objects cannot be experienced in the absence of consciousness, then the objects cannot be different from consciousness. Somehow it must be consciousness itself experiencing itself as objects. As one monk put it, what's the nature of the eye? The nature of the eyes is to see. But when a little kid looks up into the sky, it's just empty space. There is no surface to be seen. He imagines, it seems to him like an inverted blue bowl, like a surface which he's seeing. The eyes want to see. There's no space to be seen. And so it looks like a surface. There's no surface to be seen. This empty space looks like a surface. He gives that example and says, consciousness alone exists according to Advaita Vedanta. The nature of consciousness is to experience. Look at our own experience of life. Nature of consciousness is to experience. There's nothing else except consciousness to experience. And consciousness cannot be experienced as an object. So the great conclusion is, these objects, so-called objects, are nothing but consciousness itself appearing to itself in that form. That you must give credit consciousness as innate ability of consciousness, what the Buddhists call a magical display of the phenomena of samsara and nirvana. When in samsara, struggling through spiritual life, you recognize the nature of reality as this limitless awareness, then the same samsara now appears to you as nirvana. Nagarjuna, 2,000 years ago, he said there is no distinction between samsara and nirvana. That sounds stunning, because the entire project of Buddhism is to go from samsara to nirvana. Now you're saying there's no distinction, but don't misunderstand. It does not mean that the spiritual project is wrong. In fact, that's the only project that's worthwhile. But ultimately you will see that which presents samsara to you, this world of objects, that when it's truly recognized, this very world of objects samsara will seem like nirvana, will be nirvana to you.
I will say that's the way I understood how the world itself is pure consciousness. It's the sheer fact that it must manifest in your consciousness for you to be aware of it. Otherwise, it does not exist. So therefore, in order for it to exist, it must be in your consciousness. Therefore, the object itself is your consciousness.
Freedom.
Mm.
Because that consciousness, it neither requires samsara nor requires nirvana. It's always free. That's why Shankaracharya sings, Mano buddhi ahankar chittani naham chidananda rupa shivoham. Then he says, Na dharmo, na chartho, na kamo, na moksha. I don't even want moksha, nirvana. Why? Chidananda rupa shivoham, shivoham. Because I'm of the nature of consciousness and bliss. I am Shiva, I am Shiva. That's why the consciousness itself does not want moksha. It's the sentient being who feels that I'm caught in samsara. Moksha is not here as yet. I must struggle for moksha and nirvana, and then attains to nirvana by realizing who am I, what am I, and then sees this entire display as appearing in that consciousness, as nothing but that consciousness. Then everything that we experience in this world, people, trees and animals, sky and earth and water and fire, all of that, and our internal universe of thoughts and emotions and ideas, good and bad, all of that is nothing but this one consciousness, filling it through and through, Purnam. Everything that we encounter is this one limitless awareness. Our own nature, called Atman, Brahman. The Buddhists called it the clear light of the void. And this is appearing to us in all of these forms. And therefore, Purnamadah Purnamidam, that transcendent light is this world of subject and object. Right now, in our own experience. From that transcendent light, this world, Purnasya Purnam, Purnat Purnamudachyate, from that fullness, this has arisen. What does it mean? In you, that limitless awareness, this world of objects, mind, body, and external world has arisen. Purnasya Purnamadaya, in this fullness, if you recognize all these objects are nothing but me, the pure light, Purnameva Vashishyate, light alone exists then. This limitless light alone exists. Now, I don't want to overuse this light metaphor, because it can be misunderstood, grossly misunderstood. Somebody said to me that, okay, so we are all this light. So light is photons. Are we photons? I said, oh God, no, not in that sense. It's a metaphor. I don't mean that we're actually physical light there. It's just bare awareness. That's what's compared to light. Because of the nature, it illumines everything and is self-revealing. This light illumines physical things and is self-revealing. In that sense, consciousness or awareness illumines everything and is self-revealing. Purnamadah Purnamidam, what seems very far away, diamond, and it seems very different. This is a rock, same thing. And it seems that from the rock a diamond has come, but it didn't, because the rock and the diamond were the same. When does it seem? After realizing that it's a diamond. Oh, from the rock a diamond has arisen. It hasn't actually arisen, it was always that. Then Purnasya Purnamadaya, in the rock when you discover the diamond, Purnameva Vashishyate, the diamond alone remains. So this is a very profound subject, and I just want to leave us with this thought that in the end, if you have attended last week's talk, at the 5 schools, progressively deeper understanding of, none of them are wrong understandings, they are deeper and deeper understandings of the teaching of emptiness. The last one, emptiness as the clear light of the void, in which samsara and nirvana are appearing and disappearing. Doesn't it sound remarkably similar to what the goal we have reached right now? I know there are serious objections on both sides. I have had Buddhist masters saying, no, you can't conflate this with the Hindu Advaita view. That's wrong, that's an eternalism. There's one eternal reality called Brahman you're talking about. Not really, as we saw. Because the eternal only accepting time as a reality. And on the Hindu side, they say, no. You can't conflate Purnam and Shunyam, because Shunyam is just nothing, it's nihilism, which is again unfair, because Nagarjuna 2000 years ago strongly says we are not talking about nothing. Does it exist? We say no. Does it not exist? We say no. Both exist and not exist? We say no. Neither exists nor does not exist? We say no. Chatushkoti vinirmukta tattvam. The reality is beyond these four logical alternatives of the mind. The mind keeps playing within these logical alternatives. The truth is beyond all these concepts. I got a call from a great traditional teacher of Vedanta from India, from Benares, in alarm, saying, are you going to, in Bengali he said, Shunno Purno ek kore deben naki? Will you make it one? What's going to happen in this talk? Are you going to say that Shunyam and Purnam are, in one sense, in a sort of ultimate sense, yes. Swami Saradanandaji, the biographer of Sri Ramakrishna, in Sri Ramakrishna, the great master, he writes, what they, the Buddhists, call Shunyam, it is what we call Purnam. We're talking about the same thing itself. Sri Ramakrishna, I'll let him have the last word. Very interesting last word.
I know I said this in some older videos when I did the initial reaction to Buddhism and Advaita Vedanta. It's the sheer fact that it seems like they're just so similar. And I'm wondering, why have they not come together? And what's the kind of, I guess, the disconnect that prevents them from coming together? One sees a void, one sees, well, fullness. I mean, nothingness and fullness are complete, utter opposites of each other, but could they not be seen as essentially one and the same?
Very Purnam type teacher, who said, in every path, whether you're worshipping God as mother like he did, or as the beloved Krishna, or as the Christ of the Christians, or as Allah of the Muslims, in whichever way you do, it is the same reality. You can see the Purnam philosophy behind it. Once he was asked about the Buddha and emptiness. It's in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. Somebody said to him, but the Buddha was a Gnostic. Gnostic might mean two things. One is a non-believer in the Vedas, which he was, and the other one is not believing in some God or ultimate reality, which he was not. Sri Ramakrishna immediately protested and said, why should he be a Gnostic? He could not express in language what he had discovered. He could not put it in language. Why could he not put it in language? Was his Sanskrit grammar faulty? No, he was a very learned person, a very learned prince. He had gone through all the philosophies, and after giving up his kingdom and searching for enlightenment, he had gone to all the existing masters and learned whatever they had to teach. So he knew all that. But what he had discovered finally could not be put in language. The moment you have language, you have concepts. Language and concepts come together. And you try to put in that, you will be doing an injustice. So Sri Ramakrishna said, but he didn't explain all this. He just said he could not put in language what he had discovered. And I'm just reminded, the Buddha's great silence when he was asked these questions. I think 14 questions, he remained silent. There's a lot of discussion in Buddhist philosophy. Why did he remain silent? Not because he didn't know the answers. He knew all the answers, but none of them were adequate. Why did he remain silent? Because the real answer cannot be put in language. And that's the beginning of the Madhyamaka philosophy of Nagarjuna, who says if you clothe it in language and concepts, it's bound to be wrong. And then comes the extraordinary statement of Sri Ramakrishna. He says, Osti nastir majhe sheikhane thik thik, in Bengali. That which is between is and is not. That's exactly right. Which is a very strange statement for a Hindu teacher to make. The Hindu teacher, beyond existence and non-existence, beyond the manifest and non-manifest, is Brahman. That language you find in the Upanishads, in the Gita, na sat na saduchyate, Bhagavad Gita, you find that language. But between, this between is a very peculiarly Buddhist idiom. In fact, the very word Madhyamaka means between. It's neither the extreme of some existing God, Atman Brahman, nor the extreme of nothingness. It's between. Madhyamaka. Literally, in anybody who knows Indian languages, it sounds immediately like middle. Madhyamaka. And here Sri Ramakrishna says, that's exactly right. This most Hindu of all teachers, this image worshipper of Kali, this Purnam teacher, and he uses the word of the language of Nagarjuna and Chandrakirti and says, that's exactly right. All right, we take it as it is. It's an amazing journey into emptiness last week and into fullness this week. I pray to Sri Ramakrishna, Ma Sharada, Swami Vivekananda, to bless us with that vision, with that insight, which liberates us from samsara, where we can finally see samsara and nirvana or moksha as appearances in the reality that we are, this limitless awareness. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ram Krishna Arpanamastu. Thank you very much.
So the I guess the troubling thing for me is the fact that if they say something exists between existence and non-existence, or is and is not, or it does not exist but does not exist, it's very troublesome, because to me that's like getting away from explaining something. To say for I guess an example would be like, my God exists, my religion is true. It's like, what's your proof of true? Well, it does not exist, it does exist, or it doesn't exist, and it does not exist, not exist, and it's not real, it's not unreal. It's kind of like a non-answer in a sense. But that's also the reason. I guess that's the reason why it's just something that's I don't think people can understand, and which made sense to what he was saying at the end there with Gautama Buddha, where it says he could not put it into words. Well, obviously, like for me, to is and is not, something in between is and is not. Maybe I don't know, but like it makes sense then if it were true. Again, I don't know. That a concept that cannot be explained in words, then obviously it'd be very difficult to explain, and is and is not, somewhere in between those two, would be a very good explanation to something that cannot be explained. Because if it is between is and is not, there's no concept between that, I suppose. I don't know how to say that. Yeah, it just doesn't make sense. Especially I guess the four that he gave, which is he does not exist, he does not exist, and I forget what the other twos were, but it's confusing to put to the least. But I guess at the very least, if this is something that I guess difficult to put into words, but can be experienced, that's a different story. That is, at least there's a way to prove that there is something to it. And if it's something that's consistent, I think. I mean, that's my requirement. Something that's consistent, because if it's inconsistent, then you don't know what's causing it to happen. But if you keep doing a particular pattern or a particular method, and you're constantly experiencing it by doing that exact same thing, then it is something that is consistent and provable. That's not to say that anyone else that replicates that can experience it, but because perhaps there may be different methods and people are a bit different, especially something along the lines of these things. But yeah, it makes sense, but also very difficult to grasp and understand, because it can't be really explained, but at the same time to believe, because you can't explain it, for one, and two, for me, I guess from personal experience, people who avoid answering questions use roughly the same language, as in they don't explain it in such a good way. but at the very least, with this one, it is something that can be experienced, which is, generally speaking, the way that you really want to do it anyway. So that's the good thing. What else is there? and again, like I said earlier, it's like, Buddhism and Advaita Vedanta, just when they describe things, it's just so similar. It's so crazy similar, and also absolute nothing and absolute everything. They're so absolute that they're, I guess you could say, almost the same thing. It seems like they're the same thing. What's the difference? When absolutely everything exists in something, that's almost the same thing as almost nothing. I mean, I'm sure someone can explain it in such a way, but perhaps or maybe not. I don't know. Anyways, that's my reaction to Purnam the full. If you like my content, please consider subscribing, thumbs up, thumbs down below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next vid.